my name is Irene and I'd like to welcome you to my channel. I talk about my opinions on books and hopefully I can give you a few good recommendations. Before I get started, please like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. So, today I am going to be talking about my favorite female characters in books. This list was so much fun to create because there are so many characters that I absolutely adore and love and that I have a great connection to. Now, these characters aren't necessarily great people because a lot of these characters are really flawed, but I just have a personal connection with them, and that's why they're my favorites. So, oh, also, next week, I am going to be putting out a video of all my favorite male characters. Now, this is basically consists of all my, book crushes. But, this one I am excited for. I have 11, I think. I was trying to narrow it down to 10, but I just couldn't do it. There was a few that I just didn't make it on the list, but are up there in my favorites. But I just couldn't narrow it down to 10, so I just went with 11. But, starting with Go Ask Alice. Now, this is about a girl who falls into drug addiction, and this was my favorite book for a really long time. It's just like being inside of her head and how she describes what is happening to her and why she is going down this path, and then all these dark things that she decided to do happen, and she just goes down into a direction that she just never would have guessed at the beginning that she would have gone down this path. And I just really connected with her as a person because she was obviously having like a really hard time, and she wasn't perfect. That's what I loved about her, is that she had so many issues, she had so many problems, and she was so layered that it made it for a great character. I absolutely love Alice. It's made to seem like it's an actual person. I don't know if that's true. This is actually, I think that there's a few other books of like diary. It's like a diary type of thing where it makes it seem that it's from an actual person, like an actual person's diary, but I'm not sure. I don't know if I believe that. But either way, I love Alice. She means a lot to me. The next two characters I am going to be talking about are from the Lunar Chronicles, Cress and Winter. I'm holding up Cress. That's because that was the one that was nearest. But I love Cress because she is basically Rapunzel. It's, retelling a dystopian cyborg story, and she is Rapunzel, and I love her because she's just so innocent, sweet, and just tries to see the best out of people, and she is really a good person, and the things that she is willing to do for the people around her and her friends, I just really love Cress. She is just the sweetest character, and her romance is the best. And then in Winter, which is the next book. Now, Winter's not in this book, but she's in the series. So, Winter, she's a bit crazy, but that's because the powers that she can't use has gotten to her. And her just being like this just sweet girl that just wants everyone to be okay, but she's also crazy and isn't all there, and she has these like, kind of like panic attacks, but not necessarily like panic attacks. It's hard to explain. And she just has like, she's just crazy. She's just a bit crazy, but she's just the sweetest character, and she's doing it for other people, and I love that about her, and she's so funny, and I love Winter. So Cress and Winter are up there in my favorites. Next, I have Jane Eyre from Jane Eyre. She reminds me a lot of me. She had a really rough childhood, although I didn't really have that rough childhood, but she had a rough childhood, and just her reactions and who she became as a person just reminds me of me. She's quiet, she she doesn't like when bad things happen, she doesn't like freak out and be like, you know, she's very kind of insecure and doesn't really believe in herself. And this is a romance basically, and she doesn't believe in herself, and she just has a really tough time with the situations around her. And I just really like her because she like perseveres through it all, and it becomes just like a sweet person. She's just a sweet person. She's nothing crazy, but she just becomes a well-developed character, and she's extremely layered, and I just love layered characters that have flaws and have had bad things happen to them. I really like characters that have had a rough life. The next character I have is Jan from Belzar. Now, this character, if anyone has read this book, is probably surprised that this is my favorite character, because she basically, there's a lot of spoilers for why she's my favorite, but in the start of this book, she is going to the school because supposedly her boyfriend died. Now, no answers are really given about it at the beginning of why she's there, and then she starts writing in this journal, and the journal takes her to another place, so basically her happy place, and she learns a lot from it. Now, I really connected to this character because I basically feel like I am this character. Like, if there's any character that I am the most connected to, the one that I am the most that I relate to the most, it's her, because of the stuff that happens to her and the way she reacts to it. Art is just great, and it's not great, like, it's bad how she reacts to it, but you know, I just relate to it so much. It's just so good, and she's just not a perfect character. She's not a perfect character at all, and that's why I connected with her. I just love imperfect characters, and she's just having a really rough time, and yeah, I love her. The next two characters I have is Arya and Dany from Game of Thrones. There are very different books on this list. Okay, so Arya starts off as a little girl, and she grows up a bit throughout the series, and I love Arya. She becomes so strong because of the situations that happen around her. She becomes so strong, and she becomes a fighter, and she doesn't let anyone tell her she can't do something because she's a girl. She literally just does it. She just does it. And she really is just cares about her family, and she's just trying to like make everything, you know, just trying to survive. She's just trying to survive, and she's a survivor. And the things that she goes through in the series is great, and just how she gets through them, because she's just so strong and such a fighter, and she can, in a winner, she can basically, I don't want to give any spoilers, but she's great, and her development is great. After that, I have Dany. Now, Dany has dragons, so that's obviously a plus. Also, she is just so, she conquers, and she just gets to the top. I don't know how to talk about Dany, but why I love her, without spoilers, because it's what happens like after the first book that makes her my favorite character. But she just gets so strong. She just doesn't take anything from anybody, and she just wants to do the best for people. So, yeah. Dany and Arya from Game of Thrones. The next one I have is Vin from Mistborn. Vin is also, a fighter and strong, and she has powers and no one else does, and she starts off alone, completely alone, and all she has before she's alone is her abusive brother, and then she's completely alone, and she gets from there to where she is at the end. And that's what I love in characters, is when they get someplace, they go from someplace that's really not good, and then they end up like just on top, and they just get so strong and they can just do anything. That's what I love. And the connection she has to other characters is great, and she's great. She's great because although she can be a lot when she's like fighting and stuff, when it comes down to it, she's a young girl in a bad situation that's just trying to do the best for people. So then it's definitely up there on my list. Alright, I have Jo from Little Women. Jo is a tomboy. And she's a tomboy in a time where tomboys don't really last. They have to become these women that can dress in corsets and wear these fancy dresses and do all this. That's what women are expected to do, and she's a tomboy, and she's always a tomboy, and I love that. I love that. And she's also a writer, which I'm a writer, so I relate to her on that, and she cares about her family and just wants to protect her family, and she wants everything to stay the same and for everything to be okay with the people in her life. And I just really connect with her because she's a writer and a tomboy, and she just does what she wants, says what she thinks, and it's great. Jo is great. So next I have Vanessa from My Dark Vanessa. This is a recent read, and I absolutely loved this book and the character. She starts having a intimate relationship with her professor at her boarding school, and she's a young underage girl. And then there is her older self that's looking back on the situation and seeing it kind of in a new light. I really, really loved her because she wasn't simple. It wasn't just a typical situation, you know, where she looks back and sees the situation as completely wrong. Because, I mean, you know, that makes sense to look back and see it as completely wrong. But for her, it's blurred. For her, she can't really tell the difference. Because although the situation was dark and not good, she just looks back and sees it as, you know, he was my first love. But then the lines get blurred when she thinks back about certain situations and how she didn't feel right about them and all of that. And she's just complicated. She doesn't see things simply for what they were. She sees them for how she felt, for how she remembers them. And that's what I love about her, is because she just didn't let other people's opinions of the situation affect her. She had to see it for herself. She had to figure it out for herself why this was wrong. And I love that because she thought for herself. That's what I really loved. And she was a great character, and definitely developed by the end. The next character I'm going to talk about is Ciri from Warbreaker. Now, this story is about these two sisters and this father who has to send one of these sisters, the oldest, to marry the god. But then he realized he loves her more than the younger sister, so he sends the younger sister instead. And that is Ciri. Now, I love Ciri is because she just adapted to the situation. She's like, alright, since I'm gone, then I guess I'm just going to have to marry this god and do my best to do what my father wanted me to do. And I love that. She tries so hard. She, you know, she's just like this she's really friendly, and she just talks to the gods and like forms like these relationships and figures out more information about them. And I just love that. She just adapted so well to the situation and what happens romantically. I love, and she just did so well. Anyway, I loved her, and this book's really good too. So those were my 10 to 11 characters that I love the most. I really tried my hardest to avoid spoilers, because sometimes the reasons why you love characters are centered around what happens in the end. But I love all these books, I love all these characters, and I cannot wait to do the male characters list. I think that's going to be even more fun. So, as always, I have my Goodreads linked below. I make videos every Thursday if you want to check them out, and I will see you next time. Bye!